Hey everyone, I'll call the Financial Services meeting to order this evening. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. There is a addition tonight to the agenda. We will put it at 8C. And it is a municipal service grant request, an extension for the Millbrook and Area Community Association. Here, Matt. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we could put on the agenda just tonight about that Red Cross $500 card that was given out to the government. A lot of people are coming asking me that they never got it yet. They had the same thing that we have. It's just wondering if we get it, something from the government.
I think probably we better be going to the next meeting so we have some information about it before we have a discussion about it.
Fine, but these people wait a long time and it's going to be there's stuff in there. So we're trying to find out what's going on, but that's all right.
Well, maybe we can even have it at the next council meeting, so it's not too far away. Just so that we all have some information on it. Before we get going here, any further, actually, we'll go with the agenda first. So I'll call for an approval of the agenda. So moved. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Parker. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay.
Nay.
Motion carried. Before we get too further tonight, I would like to offer congratulations to two of our councillors, Councillor Chester Duber for District 12 and Councillor Andy Thompson for District 11. They are recipients of the Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee Medals that they received this past weekend in Westville. And I'd just like to offer them our congratulations. We'll move on to number 3, errors, omissions, corrections for the minutes of December 19th, 2022. Any errors, omissions, corrections for the minutes of December 19th? And one last time, any errors, omissions, corrections for the minutes of December 19th? Seeing none, we'll consider those minutes approved. So we have a presentation this evening. I would like to welcome Helen Llewellyn and Karen McKay Llewellyn of Plymouth Park. They together are the volunteer coordinators of the livable income of the United Church of Canada, and their representatives from Nova Scotia. So I'd like to welcome them here this evening to present at our financial services meeting. If you'd like to come up and have a seat there. We welcome you here this evening.
Did you do anything, or is this working?
Okay.
First of all, let us thank you for this invitation to be present with you tonight and address the issue of guaranteed livable income, or basic income, as it's known to so many. Hal and I are part of this national volunteer network of the United Church of Canada, which has been on record since the 1970s, advocating for basic income in Canada. We're coordinators for that work in Nova Scotia. We also relate to Coalition Canada and Basic Income Canada. So they act as an umbrella organization for most of the movement in the Canadian context, urging the federal and provincial governments to establish an ongoing basic income policy. We listened with great interest to your council meeting in November and the discussion you had in response to the letter we sent seeking your support for GLI in Canada. And we noted with particular interest your questions and the request for further information. We forwarded to your council office a number of documents which we thought might be helpful in this regard, answering some basic questions that you had as to the why and the what and the how of basic income policy. And tonight we seek to respond briefly to your questions of cost, impact on jobs, and suggest a possible way forward for us following this meeting. So what is basic income? One of the documents we sent you defines it in this way. A basic income is a periodic, unconditional cash payment provided by government to individuals. It ensures recipients can meet their basic needs and live with dignity, regardless of their work status.
As some of you noted in your November meeting, this isn't new. Basic income has been around for a long time. In a worldwide movement supported by leaders of all political stripes. Even someone like Ronald Reagan was a proponent. Names such as economist Milton Friedman, Elon Musk of all people, Chris Hughes of Facebook are in favor of some form of basic income. In Canada, political names such as Hugh Segal, Robert Stanfield, Brian Mulroney are on record as supporting it, and over 150 Canadian CEOs and business leaders representing $1.5 billion in revenues and over 5,000 staff have signed a letter to the government in support of basic income. A growing list of Canadian senators and parliamentarians are convinced of its worth. Now, why the growing support? Well, some leaders in the world support it simply because it makes good economic sense. Thomas Piketty, the great French economist who wrote the recent book called Capital, says the growing gap between the ultra rich and poor globally is not sustainable anymore. We must find some way to put money in the hands of the ordinary citizens of the world, or the economies of the world are going to collapse. Goods and services depend on people having income to spend. We need a new distribution of wealth for a healthy economy. Now, others come at it from a moral point of view. The level of poverty in the world is a moral outrage and enormously costly. In our own province, some 40-some thousand children live below the poverty line and are not secure in terms of the food they eat or the clothes they put on their back. And with poverty, as many of you will know, comes illness, increased drug use, hospitalization, increased suicide, depression, physical and emotional sickness. The cost in Canada is enormous, in the billions. Thousands of lives are destroyed in the process.
And welfare, my friends, as most of us know, is totally inadequate to deal with the crisis. At best, it covers only about 40% of the income people need to survive. It is costly administratively, and it stigmatizes people and disincentivizes them in terms of work and education. But poverty is to be overcome and our economy is strong. We need to put income in the hands of ordinary people on a consistent basis, unconditionally. Hugh Segal tells us in his book, Bootstraps Need Boots, which we commend to your reading, that when the Senior Citizen Supplement was introduced in Ontario during the Davis government, poverty among seniors was around 35%. After the supplement came in, the poverty rate went down to 5%, which is an enormous reduction. The same thing happened in Canada, is happening with the Canada Child Benefit Program. Poverty reduced significantly among young families. So these are two examples of a guaranteed income that have had positive results. Twice now in Canada, pilot basic income projects have been held. One in Manitoba called Mincom in the 1970s, and then one in Ontario more recently. The results from these have been analyzed thoroughly, especially by an economist called Evelyn Forget of the University of Manitoba. There were a number of positive factors that came from these pilots already, notably decreased healthcare costs, reduction of high school dropouts, increased engagement in post-secondary education, reduction of poverty, stimulation of urban and rural economies because the money stays in the communities, and increased workforces.
Now, speaking of work, some of you at the November meeting were concerned about the impact on the workforce. Will this make people want to work less? Make people lazy? The research to date from Canada and from other places in the world, such as Alaska, Finland, the Netherlands, United Kingdom, shows clearly that people did not stay home from work or cease working with basic income. On the contrary, they used the money to upgrade their working skills. Young people stayed in school longer. Parents were able to provide better for their children. People's desire for work and better work actually increased. And again, we would urge you to read Evelyn Forget's book, Basic Income for Canadians, to see the results of the research. People are encouraged to work for many different reasons. Okay, now the cost. Let's talk money. That was the question some of you also asked at the November meeting. Where's the money coming from to pay for it? Which the Parliamentary Budget Office estimates, given the current tax code, to be somewhere between $76 and $85 billion a year. That's a lot of money. But as economist Forget points out, the government already spends about $23 billion a year on provincial income assistance. So take that money, roll it into a basic income, and the costs are suddenly down considerably. So where does the rest of it come from? Well, some economists argue a lot of recovery of money can be had in tax reform, in a more fair and equitable tax collection system. The International Monetary Fund, for example, talks about financial transactional tax as a way of leveling the playing field. In addition, money is to be found in reducing some of the tax loopholes. I have to be honest, tax loopholes of the wealthy, such as the capital gains, increased tax on multinationals. And let us consider some of the savings downstream due to less poverty. Poverty costs us incredibly. We spend over $60 billion in Canada alone on hospitals. If there were a reduction of only 5 to 6% use in hospitals, you're talking of huge savings in cost. Furthermore, many people see basic income not as a handout or charity, but as an investment in the economy, as an investment in our young people, with huge returns in terms of increased spending on local communities, better health, education opportunities. So is it going to cost? Yes, it is. Can we cover the cost? Yes, we can.
Now let us close by a comment or two on why we come to you as a municipality. Included in one of the documents we sent are some of the reasons for this. We know that as councillors, you are faced with a daunting task. Municipalities are struggling to keep up with downloaded responsibilities of providing essential public and social support services. Dealing with housing and health costs, food banks, etc. The resources municipalities have on hand to deal with it all are increasingly limited. Municipal governments and service providers are often on the front lines, supporting residents' well-being when people are struggling so much to meet their daily needs. It is at the community level where the impact of this can be felt most strongly. A guaranteed livable income, for the reasons we mentioned, could help municipalities deliver the services everyone expects and ease the burden of providing citizens with a dignity of life. That is the reason why many municipalities in the Atlantic region and across Canada have passed resolutions in support of a guaranteed livable income. The most recent one, just last week, a copy of which we have brought tonight for your review, is by the St. John de Brunswick. And we are hoping that you might add your voice to that list.
Okay, time is up, I know. Let's stop and hopefully you'll welcome some questions and further discussion.
Okay,
Thank you very much for hearing us.
okay. Councilors, I'll open the floor to you. Is there any questions that you'd like to ask this evening? Go ahead, Councilor Turner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for your presentation. It's certainly going to be a paradigm shift if this particular program comes into fruition. You've told me that, and you've told council that this has been proposed since the 1970s. So we're 40 years into this concept. What particular headwinds have you come? We've talked about all the proponents of it. Bill Friedman is a surprise to me.
Yeah.
There is a lot of headwinds out there. There is a lot of opposition to this.
Yeah.
How do you propose? Sure, the people that are influencers are trying. There's a lot of influencers are trying to stop this concept from happening. How do you get beyond that politically? It's a lot of money, a lot of lobbyists that are corporate lobbyists that don't want to see any type of redistribution of wealth. This is fundamentally a redistribution of wealth. Politically, how do you go about changing that whole paradigm? That's a big question, but
Yeah.
I'm interested in your answer.
Well, you want me to? I remember something Hugh Siegel in his book said, Bootstraps and Boots, that it's going to have to come from the ground up. That's why we come to municipality councils. Halifax, St. John's, Newfoundland, Moncton, Fredericton are on board and support of this in sending a letter encouraging the federal government to adopt this as a program and policy. In PEI, the whole province and all the political parties have come on board asking for a 5-year program and support from the federal government. Hugh Siegel said that is how it's going to happen. Is if the groundswell from the ground up, but it's probably not going to happen top down. So it takes a long time, but so did our health insurance. So did the old age assistance program. It all took a lot of spade work and development to get those things to where they are now. So that's our hope. It's to be patient and to try and keep with the program.
Thank you. Can I just ask one more?
Yes, go ahead.
Is there any particular quote unquote developed countries that have this place?
Scandinavia.
Is there any Scandinavian countries?
Is it
that have
Denmark?
this?
Yes, well, Finland, I mean, they're not developing countries, but even, I
Yeah,
didn't
not
even
developing
mention, but even a place like Iran is experimenting with basic income policy. And even in Afghanistan. So, yeah, there are developing countries that are.
I think you asked developed.
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 Developed countries. like-
Finland.
There are 16 countries where basic income is now in the States. In California, you have states in the United States, Finland, United Kingdom, the Netherlands. Those are some of the developed countries where there's a lot of movement in developing this.
Good luck. I think it's a wonderful initiative. I think it's time for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Turner. Deputy Warden Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for coming for your presentation. And Councilor Turner asked a couple of questions we can ask, but the question is, what is the basic income? How is that developed or come about? What the number of dollars would be for basic income, and would that be increased each year by inflation, or do you have an answer?
I would imagine,
Well, there's a certain basket, there's a certain market basket of assessment about what is required for a basic income, that they measure by that, what is needed for a basic income. So it would change over time because of whatever the costs would be. But that is initially, I think they gave some figures as to a single person, and I haven't got those in front
yeah,
of me.
what it would take, what this market basket measure in terms of what it takes to live at the level of poverty, above the poverty line, or just below it. What we're not talking about huge salaries here, or a lot of money being put in the hands of individuals. We're talking about enough to allow for the basic needs, to allow some kind of dignity of life and opportunity, so that they can go on then and earn to increase that. And there are many models about how this might be structured, not only in the Canadian context, but around the world. So that and those models can be looked at, but there are various models. Some models even presented as low a cost as $23 or $4 billion instead of the parliamentary budget office calculation. Some see everyone above 18 years of age getting it. Others say that only those who are in need of increase in salary for their lives would get it. So there are different models being presented. But I would imagine that it would be always depending on the cost of living as we go forward.
Follow up on that, so the base part of it would have to be figured out first. That would be the first step before they would have to go and see what taxes.
Yeah.
So we need to fund it. Okay, thank you.
There are two bills currently before Parliament. One called S223 and the other S233. And they're under consideration and review now, calling for a framework. And if those pass in the Senate and the Parliament, then the government would be responsible for developing a framework for basic income for all Canadians. And we're just waiting as to see what's going to happen to those current bills that are there currently.
But we really need that framework really to respond to some of the questions that you're asking.
Yeah. Very good questions.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Warden Murray. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming tonight. Again, my question is very similar to Deputy Warden. We received a lot of information there on Friday, right? And I skimmed through it and things like that. And I was looking for that answer. What is the basic income, right? And I recall reading something where Halifax said the basic income is around $33,000 for their state, okay? So my question was to you was, would a single person get 33,000? What would a family get if you had a family? But there's a lot of questions that aren't answered. It's hard for me to support something if I don't have the answers to. Because if you give a single person 33,000, then and you got a family, but does that person get, if a person is working, do they get the basic income too, and it will work as well? That's the other question, right? Because you have, if you don't have those answers, it's hard to look into and say, yeah, we can afford this or we can't afford it. Sure. So, and I just can't see if somebody's getting basic income, let's say they're getting $33,000 and they go, well, why would I go about work and make 38,000 when I can stay at home and make 33,000? You look around today, everywhere is short workers. Where's all these workers? I don't know, since the pandemic, I don't know where the workers went, but everywhere is short and they're taking in immigrants and things like that. So there's a lot of factors in that. I think that small businesses will suffer from this. I think that's the group that will really suffer because you're only making $38,000 or $35,000. Why would something go work in a position like that? Right? So I like more information before I can vote on anything. I'd have to know what the basic income is, who is going to get it, and how much are they going to get. Families going to get it, and working, you also get it. Because there's a lot of,
You might be interested in the trial project, hopefully comes to fruition in Prince Edward Island. They have applied to the federal government to do a project in that province, and some of those questions may be clearer and clearer answers.
they asked the federal government to be a part of the project for this.
Yeah.
And the federal government didn't think perhaps with an answer yet.
No, they
Not yet, it's currently before Parliament. There are figures, in response to your question, using the market basket measure of what it would take for a single person, given current costs of living, and what it would take for a family of four. And those figures are available as to what they're talking about. In response to your question about, would people not go back to work? What they have found in terms of the experiments that they've done, both the pilot projects in Canada and around the world, is that it has had minimal effect, positive or negative, on the working labor situation. People did not give up their jobs. In fact, in many instances, they used this as an opportunity, particularly young people, to seek greater opportunities for themselves educationally, to upgrade their skills. A lot of people are trapped into very meaningless jobs at the present time. What they found in some of the pilot projects is that people did not stop the work. In fact, in many instances, they went back to work because they could supplement the basic income they received. And then at a certain level, then because through taxes, that levels itself out for them. So the work situation, which is the fear of many people, really didn't happen, particularly for young people who have seized this as an opportunity to further their education, to get better paying jobs, to get more meaningful jobs, and give themselves a much greater opportunity going forward for life.
See, a big problem with welfare at the moment is if they have the incentive to earn a little bit more money to augment it, it's clawed back.
100%.
100%, dollar for dollar, clawed back. So that's no incentive for the dollar.
I was just looking at the pandemic, right? In the pandemic. And prior to the pandemic, it didn't seem like the restaurants or the Tim Hortons or the fast food restaurants had the problem with hiring. Since the pandemic's over, everybody's hiring, everybody's looking for employees. I don't know where the employees went. I don't know how they're living or what, but it's just everywhere you go, people are looking. For instance, I went for those public works, right? Look for operators, part-time operators. They had five, right, for Pitt County. So there's shortage of operators, there's shortage of restaurant workers, there's shortage of fast food restaurant or Tim Horton workers, things like that. And, you know, I just think that give somebody money, they're more likely to stay home and to look for another job. That's what I think.
Look, I appreciate your observation of that, because that's a question that's raised many, many times.
And if this, and there's information comes out that changes my mind, then yeah, I'll change with it.
Thank you very much for the question. I appreciate it.
Okay, Councillor David Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mrs. Llewellyn. I've been aware of basic income philosophy, we'll say, for decades, probably 50 years. I have a good friend who's very much a fan of it. We essentially have this now, if you're 65 over. And we have the mechanisms in place if you're doing very well and you have other pensions or you're still working, or other sources of income. That GIS is gone. And even the OAS will be basically taxed away from you. So I'm not worried about the nuts and bolts of it. Okay. And I reference Councilor Palmer's point on certain monies when they became available. We have a person sitting opposite here that can certainly attest to this. People just quit. People that had jobs, the jobs were still there. They just went home. I remember wage, I'm not paying that much. See ya. So it can have a short-term impact. I would like to see a component of it that required you maybe several different levels. And in order to move out a level, you had to upgrade your labor skills, show your work. I'd like to see some incentive.
Sure.
Now, I want to make the observation. I've observed this all my life. When I was a young man, you could get POGI, as we call this, employment charge for 8 weeks. Some people bought the stamps, and you could then draw for an entire year. It ruined some people. I've also observed that people that are generational drawers of welfare. I'm a retired school teacher. Some kids, their only ambition was to do what mom and dad did, or use their own mom, or use the single parent house. And I've also observed that the Indigenous people who get some type of basic income, they tend not to develop careers that what we do. So although I am fundamentally in favor of, it's not just a blank check. I would like to see, as I said, I'm quite sure the nuts and bolts of it are pretty well there now if you're over 65 or if you're on a disability pension. I would like to see some component that provides an incentive to upgrade your skills, first of all. And then it's your choice. But I know if I was getting like for a single senior right now, OAS and GIS only, they're getting around 21,000 a year. So we've sort of defined what the base level is at. I need to try to live on that. But there are many who do. But I'd like to see a component in there because I've seen what welfare is almost a dirty word, but free money can do to people, whether it's free money on the POGI, whether it's free CERB money, whether it's free money for Indigenous people. Seniors, well, you're retired. They're senior now, you get pension, sit back with feet up. But I would like to see a component that puts an incentive in there. There's already incentives to the tax system. You make too much to take it away, but to upgrade skills so that we have, we're desperately short of workers, as Councillor Popper pointed out, in the healthcare field, desperately short of trained skilled workers. And, you know, there has to be some way that over a period of years we can address some of these issues. And I'm not against the basic income, but I am against just a handout. But I guess my question to you two is, how do you overcome this human tendency to say, well, I put my feet up, I got my money coming in, I don't have to work anymore. How do you convince people that being part of society and participating in the economic efforts of society is good for everybody?
Look, I appreciate that very, very much, Mr. Parker. I do. All I can point to in terms of the experiments we've seen around the world in a recent study of 16 basic income programs around the world, and the 2 pilot projects we've had, one in Manitoba and one in Ontario, have indicated that people did not put their feet up and treat it as just a means to do nothing. They used it to upgrade their skills. Young people saw it as an opportunity to increase the further their education. There was less dropout in terms of high school. And there was, I mean, the cost of poverty is just enormous. So they, as I say, there are a lot of people in jobs that are meaningless. They have very little meaning. So they use the opportunities. That's what the research to this point has shown us, is that use the opportunity, the extra money that they have as a security base to allow them, particularly young women who are responsible for, they were able to use that, single mothers particularly, to look after their children and upgrade their skills at the same time. So all we can do at this point is point to the research of the experiments and that we have, the experiences that we have in basic income to this point, which addresses the concern that you have, which is a very legitimate concern. And my hope would be that there would be an opportunity and maybe a provision within whatever we put into place to encourage people to do exactly that, to upgrade their skills so that the jobs going forward into the future. The other point I would make in terms of investment, seeing this as an investment in the future, is that, and I come back to the whole question of poverty, that poverty is disaffecting so many young people of our generation who are, you talk about the radicalization of our youth and their lack of respect for democracy and for institutions and for local government officials such as yourselves. That happens most when people are living in poverty, particularly among young people. So we need to provide them the opportunity to see a different vision of life and for the future for themselves, or they're going to continue to be radicalized. They're going to continue to resort to drugs. They're going to continue to drop out of our high schools and educations. We need to provide some means for them to feel secure in terms of income for their lives. That's my plea, and I just hope that we can together in this area. Yeah, push the envelope a little bit. But thanks very much for your question.
Okay, Warden Parker.
Madam Chair, thank you both for coming tonight.
There we go.
I wish this was the topic that we could just say, go test, do this. Unfortunately, our position is like many others are writing a letter. But I know what you're getting out of many letters, snow or whatever after a while. So I know what you're saying and I see it in real life a lot. Sit on the board, just by O's place, I see it there, but I see it, we deal with it here, you mentioned about municipalities, around this council table, we passed motions here a few months ago to support a breakfast program in all our schools where rural students are going, and also a backpack program, because there's no food needs on those kids paying to come to school with nothing. And it's hard to imagine in a world or in a country as wealthy as ours overall, that is happening, because we have, the situation in our schools, the situation in homes. I was out with a family with, an uncle or whatever, bringing about $325 a month to live on. That's after his rent, paying the social security paying for his rent. $325 for a month. I think you mentioned it earlier on, that the spread between those who have and those who don't have, and there's all kinds of in between that, but the spread is becoming greater all the time. We hear it on the news at night that the demand for food banks is way up. So there's no doubt we have a problem. If we don't do something about it, then it comes back to us in people's criminal activities and then all kinds of other things. And one that particularly bothers me, I know it's true, is when you mention suicides. It also, everything that causes people to feel pushed down eventually has consequences. So all of what you're saying is very, very true. And I don't doubt that we need to do something about it. And Councilor Turner said the time has come. Talked about this since the 70s. But the other side of it, I think Councilor Palmer made it pretty good about, what happened on workers, during COVID. I ran a greenhouse business for 50 years and we put out for half a dozen hours in the spring and I had nothing to get 50 residents. I'd say, take time to go for these residents. When I left a couple of years ago, if we had 4 or 5 positions, it would have been 6 residents. Just in the last, since COVID. Where did they all go? I think some of what you were saying about what the effect it has on young people in other countries that it showed and what that it doesn't cause people not to work is exactly what happened. I think when CERB came in and people had some money, and a lot of those people got a bit more training somewhere and elevated their position beyond carrying plants or making a burger, because those were the low paid jobs. So, we all wonder where did all the workers go? Well, all the young people didn't die of COVID for sure, mostly older people. But I think that's exactly what happened to a lot of them. They got up to better positions. So most of the people we were interviewing were always at that whole level. They worked on a few burger places, the fish plant somewhere. So, but to make it work financially, I read carefully the piece on Prince Edward Island. I didn't get everything read, it was too much. But I did read carefully the one on DEI, where it appears that the federal government isn't jumping in to help, but maybe we'll try to do a pilot on our own and get the feds to help us. That's probably a good idea. Somebody has to start somewhere, but we have to be able to come up with that money. And that seems the question. If suddenly you're going to pay everybody, I think 19 something was the living wage, where's that money going to come from? It's always easy to say, let's take it from those big corporations and a few really high income earners. That's constantly a good place to take money. And it is true in a way. We've got people with 6 boats and 4 cars and 3 whatever. They could afford to help pay for some of this, but probably not enough to pay for it all. We've got a healthcare system that's bleeding and that needs money. Everything needs money. So I think there has to be a lot of work done, serious work, about how to make this work so that money-wise it works for the country. It's all a great idea. It's something we need to do, but somebody has to figure out all the ins and outs. Like my brother said, with old age pension and whatnot, it's kind of already figured out. You just pull it back if the person is making too much money. But that's where I see the big concern coming, because the PTI, they said, well, we want the federal money to keep coming for all the other programs. Well, at some point, can you give people all this money and also say, we're gonna have child care benefit, we're gonna have this, we're gonna have this, we're gonna have that? You know, where's that, all that money gonna come from? I think you're on the right track to keep promoting it. That's what has to be done first. There has to be enough pressure to say from the bottom up, so that somebody starts seriously working at the money part of it. I think as a rich country, we can afford, or we need to redistribute enough to make it work. But I don't think it'll be accepted by most people that we show that it can be worked, can be made to work financially. That's kind of a doubt in a lot of people's mind as to whether this would ever, do we have enough money? We probably do, but we have to have the political will, I guess you call it, to actually make it work. But I thank you for coming and explaining some more of what we had talked about earlier. It certainly gave us lots of reasons.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Morton. Councillor Thompson.
Thanks for coming all the way down from God's country, I guess. I guess I won't repeat everything that's been said here, but basically, what you're asking us to do is just push that boulder up the hill a little more. Put your shoulder into it. Because it is going to be a process, whatever happens, but we can make our decisions based on but we got to look at things and with the federal government, if they design something that it doesn't suit the public's fancy, the electorate, it's not going to fly. So, I mean, I'm just going to read the therefore part of the St. John resolution, and because it puts it in succinct what you're asking. You're asking us to lend a hand. Therefore, we're not here to design it, right? Like we can do, but whatever. We can't design it from Pictou, Nova Scotia. This is going to be a lot smarter people than Andy and Chester and the rest of us, right? So therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of St. John directs the Office of the Mayor to write a letter to the Prime Minister, New Brunswick members of the Parliament and the Senate, the Premier of New Brunswick, members of the Legislative Assembly, and the Fundy Regional Service Commission, calling on these orders of government to work towards implementing a guaranteed livable basic income to eradicate poverty and homelessness and to ensure everyone has a sufficient income to meet their basic needs. I think everybody would agree with that statement. How we get there, that would be designed or looked into by other levels of government.
The important words are working towards. Implement, not, I mean, the kind of questions that Mr. Parker has been asking and others of you is that there are so many things that need to be studied and worked at. So it's working towards, and what the bills before the government currently are asking is for a framework.
So it's not just design something and unleash it November 1st, 2024 or 26, whatever. And like as others said, poverty is a political choice, right? We can decide to do this, or we can decide to do nothing, right? And I can tell you right now that what is out there right now is a trap. It's a trap to keep you in poverty. Welfare is not meant to raise you up. It's meant for you to exist. If you decide you want to be ambitious, like you said, they'll call you back. You never get hit that way. And I think this may be the way to do it with an incentive. Thank you for coming down. I don't really have a question because a lot of the questions have been asked. But I can tell you, going to university, I always thought it was next to criminal that somebody would spend their, from grade primary up to 12, preparing to go to university. And then when they get there, they're flipping burgers 30 hours a week. That's criminal. That's not right. Like, they should be there to learn. So, I mean, it's choice. So, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Watt.
Madam Chair, and thank you so much for coming up that this topic for your whole conversation tonight, because I think there's a lot to be said for what we are discussing here. I won't go through any what people have repeated here, but I'll just, from my own experience, I do a lot of work with the food bank, and I know wholeheartedly the welfare system does not work. We need something that would work, and at least, like you say, this is something to strive towards. I know when CERB came out, it was unpopular as CERB was with a lot of people. It did work for a lot of people that came to the food bank. They didn't have to come. I don't know why, but it did make a huge impact on the numbers. Since CERB has stopped, we have seen a definite increase in the numbers from the food bank. There's no question. So whether that had something to do with that extra $500 every couple of weeks, something to do with how they spent their money or how they were able to live, we'll never know probably. But to me, I think it's the volumes that they were coming with the food bank because they had money to buy food with. So I don't know what else they were doing with it, but I know as far as we were concerned, food was something that shortage of workers. We've talked about shortage of workers for years, and we were warned years ago with our senior population, we would have to do more immigration. We were going to run into a problem with working people and laborers. Again, because of COVID, if that 2 or 3 years made that huge impact on our system with the labor shortage, I'm not sure, but obviously there is a need out there for laborers. And again, it could be because residents are getting older, and that's what happened to a lot of our workforce. But overall, I think what you're trying to do is remarkable. I think that, like I said, what we have now isn't working. And I know years ago when they came up with free healthcare for Canada, that was remarkable. In fact, a lot of people shook their heads and said that would never work. Now I know we have a lot of issues with it today, but I think it's a lot of administration issues. Not a bad system, but we're not doing it right, and we have a lot to learn there with healthcare. But I think for me to keep doing what we're doing, it's not working. And I think we really do need to get together and try to push this up a little bit further. Thank you so much for being out.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Watt. And we'll wrap it up with Councillor Mary Elliott.
I guess the more I hear about it, when I hear that 40 years it's been being talked about and spoke about and worked on, and I'm thinking if it's 40 years later and we're still not there, that's one of my questions. But to me, a level of being broke is everybody feels they're broke. They're not making a basic. It doesn't matter what level of income you make. Everybody spends mostly beyond their means to survive. So how do you pick those people that need this money? And I'm wondering, will the people that can't work, that have disabilities, what about the people who don't want to work? And what about the people who are in the system that are living on welfare because maybe they need the skills and don't have them, or they don't have someplace the qualifications to get a job? And the term of being in a job that is meaningless, where will we fill that gap? If we take that away, who's going to pay the money? How are we going to keep those workers? Even it might be a meaningless job, yes, and it might be a minimum wage, but our students are sometimes filling that. And if we take that out, there's going to be a big gap there. And I also feel that when it comes to money, and especially government money, everybody wants a piece of the pie. So how do you say, oh, you make this much, you're not getting any, and you make this much, and you can have all this? It's not going to make everybody happy. And I feel in order to make everybody happy, everybody has to be included. And I'm just going to end it by saying, in order to make a decision, you said that, I think the term was, there's many different models. Well, in order for me to decide, I would have to see the model. not what this model looks like and this one that's in place and this province. I'm looking at the one for us. And in order to decide, that's what I have to see. Thanks.
If I may respond, thank you very much for your statement. There are many, many questions still outstanding when it comes to the consideration of the basic income. What we're asking of municipalities, because it's important that it grow up, is to come back to Mr. Thompson's comment, is that we're not asking for you to vote on a model. We're asking you to encourage the federal government to develop models, to develop frameworks that we then could consider that may be viable within the Canadian context, because it has to be viable within the Canadian context. So we're not asking for a particular model right now. We're asking for support for the federal government to really give serious consideration to developing a framework for this to bring back to Canadians for vote and consideration. So that's what we're asking for you to help support, is to encourage the government. And that's what the motion of the Halifax City Council was about, and the Moncton and the St. John's, New Brunswick, and St. John, New Brunswick, and St. John, Newfoundland. Yeah, St. John's, Newfoundland. So that's what we're asking.
So my concern with that is the government brings it back. Will all the residents have the knowledge to know what they're actually voting on? Because right now, we don't really know. And to bring a model, or us even to put that pressure on the government to implement something like this, we don't know what we're asking them, because we don't know what would work for us here. So that's a big question to ask.
That's what our politicians were paying them to do, is to explain to us and help us understand. So we have to put pressure on them.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming this evening. With that, we'll wrap up the presentation. It's been very insightful, and we appreciate everything that you spoke on this evening. So
As we leave, can we say thank you so much for your interest, and hope you will continue the challenge. Thank you very much.
And I leave this motion from
St. John.
St. John's, New Brunswick, and you may consider a small working group to work on a similar proposal that's asking for support to move forward.
yes, please leave that for us. Yes. All right, well, thank you again for coming, and have a safe drive home. With that, we'll move along in our agenda. We'll go on to number 5, reports. The first one is recreation. It's your pleasure, councillors.
Moment.
It's been moved and seconded. Moved by Councillor Parker, seconded by Councillor Palmer. Any questions or comments on the recreation report? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have the communications report for December 2022 and January 2023. What is your pleasure, councillors? Moved by Councillor Wadden. Seconded by Councillor Palmer. Any questions or comments? Warden Parker?
Under the highlight of some of our reviews, I just want to point out again, similar to last month, the large number of views there for Kyler McLean that gave a presentation here. And I think it just shows between those numbers and the numbers from last month, the great interest that's out there in our young people, and the tremendous amount of talent that we have. I think the more young people we can have present to our council from time to time, showing off use that word, those talents. I think that's a good thing, but I'm glad to see that it was sort of like the public voting on it, that those numbers are really high. I just wanted to draw attention to that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Warden Parker. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have the emergency services report. Moved by Deputy Warden Murray. Seconded by Councillor Elliott. Questions or comments on the emergency services report? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have the warden's report. If you remember last month at our financial services meeting, we didn't have the proper report for the month of November, so that is why it's included in your package this evening. Okay, we'll move them both together. Moved by Councillor Dewar. Second by Councillor Lawton. Any questions or comments for the warden? Yes, Councillor Parker.
Thank you, particularly as in November, item number 6. What's the crisis mental health group plan for a meeting of the minister? Mental health, that'd be Brian Palmer will be the minister. Could you give us a brief update on that, please?
That meeting was held to get ready and further down the list there, I think, number 11, I think, where we actually had the meeting of Minister Palmer and also MLA Carolyn McFarland was there, and a number of House representatives from both the northern zone of what is it, Nova Scotia Health, and who else said there was representatives from the Aberdeen Hospital, and we had met with Minister Palmer virtually, I guess, a year earlier, and the ask was still the same. I think we did have good headway at this meeting. There was representatives there from all 6 municipalities, in some cases the mayor, in other cases the mayor couldn't be there, somebody was there in their place. And there was really good input this time from the Aberdeen Hospital and from the Northern Zone as to what we're trying to do is make things better for crisis mental health. If somebody, whether it be their son or daughter, husband or wife, loved one somewhere, perhaps, or a neighbor, is trying to get help for somebody who is perhaps in danger of committing suicide or in danger of hurting somebody else. It's a crisis, and they nowhere else to go but the hospital. Here you go. That problem, where else do you go? And right now, you go in and you sit there for 6 to 10 hours, same as everybody else. We always say if you didn't have a mental health problem when you went in, you'll probably have one when you leave. And so anyway, the ask was that we have a different route in. So you weren't sitting there all that time. Once you get triaged, then you go down a different path if you're, especially in crisis mental health. But also that there be a place there for you. Sometimes it's the parents or the husband, wife, whatever, doesn't feel safe taking somebody home. There'd be a place there to hold you because there is nothing right now. We have 6 beds over in Toronto that are supposedly ours, but they fill up. They're overcrowded too. And the other was to have professional help for these people. Right now, we're very short on psychiatrists. I guess we're short on everything, but psychiatrists in Dixon County have been short for a long, long time. So it's working on crisis mental health. This group's been together for quite a while, and sometimes you feel like you're not making much headway. But I think this meeting, there was a feeling that we made some headway. And so we are going to ask for another meeting around early March. Follow up and see where we're at. But some of the doctors and some of the other professionals have offered to meet with us in between if we need some help. Because they pointed out some of the things that aren't quite so simple as they seem. Say, oh, okay, well, maybe we have a separate place for these people in crisis mental health, but a lot of times their problem is also very physically related. So we separate too much from the physical part of the hospital, but maybe as one doctor said, we don't want to be ignoring the physical part and the invader of the mental part, and suddenly something happens to that person because something physically was bothering them. It's a deep problem, and we continue to lose far too many people in this county. And I'm proud of the fact this group is stuck with it. And it's easy to give up sometimes when you meet with people. There doesn't seem to be much path forward, but I think we will find a path forward. We discussed mental health around here many times over the past years, and it's we eventually got to this committee, and I think it's helping because it's a small, concentrated committee, but it's represented on all of the municipalities. And if we can say one person's life, we've done a job. We need to. There's so many people out there that need that help, and they go to the hospital and they just don't. Not because of the hospital's fault, but because there's not a path there for the problem. That's, sort of long summary of what we're working on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. And next we have Councillor Wyden with the map report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is not so much a report as a request from the MAP committee. The Central Zone Mental Health and Addictions Health Promotion Team is tracking establishments that sell alcohol, to track how access to alcohol increases over time. They hope to use this information in the future for alcohol harm reduction efforts. Our MAP committee agreed to track establishments that sell alcohol in Victor County. Other alcohol groups in the Northern Zone will track those in their areas. So you're all able to email me a list of the establishments that are in your area that sell alcohol products, such as convenience stores or farmers markets or distilleries, not restaurants. They're not interested in restaurants. I'll be able to forward those lists for this project, so thank you for that.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Councillor Wyden concerning the map report? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the library report. Mr. Wyden.
Financially, we're still on track. We are 75% of the way through the financial year and have used about 73% of our budget. A breach funding request has been submitted to the province as the cost of operations continues to put pressure on the library. Also, over the next month and a half, Coral are looking at hiring a consultant to help with funding formula requests to the province. They are looking at putting together a framework that will work for everyone, and this will come back to our board for approval. The accessibility audit should be in by the end of January, and Victor Project is still waiting to hear back on the final grants from the feds. A Maker Lab grant for $14,000 has been approved, as well as a NICMAT presentation grant of $5,000, and both these are being added to the Victor Library. The Down in Glasgow are preparing an RFP for the architectural design for their planned renovations. SMS messaging and the Same Page projects are implemented and working well. 8 of the 9 regional libraries are using these programs. Hoopla was launched through the library last Monday. This is a streaming service, and all you need is a library card and an email address to register. It's a really exciting program and already being well used. I've given the information to Stu tonight to hopefully get on our website because it's an opportunity for people to use streaming services using the library card. Tactile art workshops are waiting for final approval by Sarah Mosher. These are mostly workshops for visually impaired, and again, much anticipated by library users, and the hope is to move the workshops around our various libraries in the county. Melissa Marshall is now the new coordinator for the virtual pair. This program is to continue until the end of March, and it is a pilot project by the province, but really well received. So we were hoping the request to extend this program will be approved. Pat Dunn has met with the library staff concerning Adopt a Library. He's a very strong supporter of this program and recognizes its merits. Hopefully he will be successful getting funding for this program from the province. A request was placed through his office for $2,000 for books, and this has resulted in the ability for this program to receive $40,000 in books. Our next fundraiser will be a chili and a pottery bowl. Details are still being worked on, and tickets will be available with half the purchase price being a tax donation. So we should be hearing more about this soon. And finally, Family Literacy Day Challenge starts on January 20th and runs until February 4th, with a chance to do some activities with your family, check off your card, and enter it for a chance to win a prize package. Family Literacy Day is January 27th, and it's to raise awareness of the importance of reading and doing literacy activities with the family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wyden. Any questions or comments on the okay, Deputy Warden Murray?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The paper project, since it started yet? Still in.
It's still waiting for the final knowledge of the feds, but it's
Too long. Thank you.
Okay. All right, seeing no further comments, we'll move on. We'll move on to accounts paid for the month of December 2022. Okay, moved by Councillor Butler, seconded by Councillor Parker. Yes, go right ahead.
the check number 19736. Many of them, the 3D auto parts, several of them for the same amount, all separate hurricane cleanup. So we have Mr. Hale here, to enlighten us on what that was before.
Yeah, that was just the way they invoiced the workout, so 10-hour days for the most part, that's why they're all the same, they're all based on 10-hour days, but instead of compiling a full invoice for 2 weeks of work, they invoice us daily. So that way,
So 3D auto part was one of the,
they operate a large gravel truck that we've contracted.
thank you.
Okay, Councillor Turner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess Councilor Parker asked one of my questions, but my second question in regards to hurricane cleanup, are all the invoices been presented to us yet?
Yes, I believe they have, I submitted one today that was sent in late, but that should finalize all invoicing.
So do we have a total of the cost?
No, not as of right now.
When can we expect that?
We have that for the next meeting.
Councillor Turner? Ward Melvin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I noticed there's 2 payments for each year for St. Mary's Fire Department, for 45,000 each. I wonder why they're both in, normally you get 1 check a year, and I know they get half because of where they're situated compared to some others, but, one is for 1 check number is 19,732 and the other is 19,684. One says 2122, the other says just 22. Did they not get a check for last year? Is that why we're? Is this just going to go down to the check for last year and this year?
No, they got a check for last year, but they lost the check, so they would stop payment on the first check and then reissue it. So they're getting last year's check. Stop payment, reissue, and then this year's check.
Okay, that explains why there's 2 checks. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on accounts paid? Seeing none, oh, go ahead, Councillor Johnson.
Just on the, I don't know what these companies do. For instance, there's a small, $138 check for Fowler, Baldwin, Mitchell. Who are they? They lawyers?
No, they're architects.
Architects.
So they were engaged to do some redesign work in space over there. Because they were the original designers of the building here.
And High Valley. $32,000. What do they do for us?
So that's multiple months as well. So they were doing right now, they're working on the business development components of the project.
And just a general question on these. Technology we're purchasing for this project. Is any of that stuff coming from China?
So it's coming from
American suppliers? So we're not going to run into the same situation the RCP did with their contracts with the Canadian company. They ran into a situation where there was a contract awarded to a company that was owned by the Chinese government. None of that stuff going on here. So
these are all.
So where is there our fibers coming from Canada?
It's North American, so maybe in Canada.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next we have for information purposes only, the deed transfer tax fund report. as you can see, we're up a little bit from last month, but still not at those record highs that we were seeing, especially in the pandemic. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to our final report, our taxes receivable report. You see that we did collect quite a substantial amount of $631,388.26. But we still have quite a large outstanding balance. So I'll ask Carrie, is this usually where we're at? Just as
It's a little higher than where we're usually at this time of the year. We just put the new roll on. We're working on that this week and the 1st of February, we will be doing that over here, so.
okay. All right, with that, we'll move on from our reports to our correspondence. First correspondence from the Honorable John Moore. It's a 12-month notice letter about construction and demolition. We received this in our package. Right, I think it's quite self-explanatory. Go ahead, Councillor Gardner.
I sincerely question the wisdom of saying that treated wood should not have permitted to burn, should not permitted to put in a CV site. Now we're going to truck it to Guysborough and fill it to the landfill. Yes, it can be recycled, some of it, but you're tearing up a deck that's been there for 15 or 20 years. You don't have anything left to recycle. It just seems to me to be backwards. Putting it where we have been putting it, covering it over eventually with material that would, yes, it would take 50 or 60 years for rot rather than 5 or 8 for non-treated wood. But it just doesn't make a lot of ecological sense to me to take it to Guysborough in our case, fill it into a clay lined pit or liner. It's not going to work. So it's going to cost some money.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Parker. Warden Parker.
I signed in on a lot of meetings to do with this particular proposal through the waste management regional chairs, and there's a lot of concern across the province from various municipalities about how much this is going to cost, in addition to what it costs us anyway. But it generally goes into C&D and then with the rest of that material. But I think the push came from other provinces that were doing this, and our province simply said, well, we should be doing this too. It's, I think, it's all the whatever, not the leader necessarily, but and the people in the Department of Environment definitely feel they have justification for what they're doing, and they're far down the path of doing it. But that starts this July, early in July. It's going to be mostly educational for the first year, but we don't have a number at all right now as to how much it's going to cost us, because Earl has said he doesn't have a good number on, that's the way it came in before, it's all mixed with everything else. He doesn't have a good number on what it's going to be. But some municipalities feel they have a number and it's going to be pretty high. They're going to try to divert as much as they can to other uses rather than send it to Guysborough. Once you start sending it to Guysborough, it has a lot of negatives because the cost of hauling it, the cost of storing it there and transporting it, but also you are filling up their landfill a lot faster if you start putting a lot more big stuff in it. So it's a go ahead. John Moore sent that letter to the minister because it is a go. They're just working at regulations right now as to how this is going to work. But you can picture somebody coming in with a mixed load of stuff from somebody's house where they're tearing off a end or something, and it's going to be, or as I said, it's going to be very difficult to. The burden's going to be on the contractor to separate out all of this stuff at the site and take it in separately. If they're taking it in there, well, they're afraid that a lot of it might end up in the bush or somewhere because you're got a lot more to do. But it's up, we don't have any control of the minister said whether it said here's your warning that you're gonna have an increased cost within the next 12 months, but actually starts in July, so it is gonna be a difficult one. We're not gonna be much, you won't hear much about it for a couple of years until they actually start penalizing people and make people pay. But it is gonna cause a lot of headaches for some of our contractors. It's not gonna be an easy road.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warden. Any other final comments or questions? Correspondence. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 6B, the Municipal Code of Conduct Working Group. So in our package, we received a summary, kind of an overview of the survey that was done in the fall of last year, kind of some information on what they received and kind of where they're seeing it move to. And I guess the next plan is a consultation phase that will be happening, I guess, over the winter. Is there any questions or comments here on the municipal code conduct working group? Go ahead, Warden Carter.
I just had a quick glance through some of the stuff that the group's been working on, headed up by, I think it's Garment, but I'm not sure why we ended up in the group with initiatives when they're looking at the new structure of the NSFM that goes through meet at the end of this month on it. We're going to be locked in with Colchester and Cumberland and maybe not East Hampton, I think, but yet for this consultation, we're being locked into the East. I don't think it makes a lot of difference. We can still have our comments, but it just seems a strange arrangement. The one comment I will make on the, they're looking at how to determine, if we actually have an issue and then what the penalties are. I'm not a big proponent of near the end of the penalties, they start talking about dollars, of taking dollars back from councillors. But I don't think we should be wading into that, in my opinion. There's other ways that, you could have repercussions for whatever took place. Don't think necessarily getting into the dollars that the council paid to do their job. Because they're still going to be doing their job. It's that we're trying to punish them somehow for whatever they did. So I'm not a big proponent of that, but that's my opinion of the council should pay to right now.
And our CAO advises me that this was done by Municipal Affairs, that's probably why we're lumped with the Antigonish, the more east instead of the our future, I guess.
Sure, good reason.
Yes. Okay, anyone else like to comment? Deputy Warden Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wondered if staff could send this out a reminder a few days before.
There is, in the NSFM weekly update, there's a link there to register for the workshop, and then they'll send you an actual invite if you're doing it virtually.
Sorry.
Just came out this afternoon, so.
Okay, any final questions or comments? Okay, we will move along. Okay, so this here is the municipal tax exemption for 2023-2024. And you see here the application is in our package this week, and we see the highlighted area under number 3. And it's highlighted there that includes the income of all other members of the same family residing in the same household. Speak on that, Karen.
So, well, we just want to know if council wants to leave the income at $25,000 for this year. And the exemption at $200.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Dewar.
Thank you, Chair. I think we should leave it at 25,000 for this year. Saying, just to repeat that last year, so we need a motion to that, or we've got to talk about it.
You can make a motion.
I'm making a motion that we need 25,000 of the $200.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Laura, go ahead, Councillor Park.
I was prepared to make a motion for it to be higher in both cases. My argument is simply this, cost of living has gone way up. There have been some increases in OAS and GIS, especially GIS, and some on people who get CPP. This seemed to fit this for single seniors. Okay, but there's quite a few couples out there who exceed this amount, but they're still poor, still very poor. But I can't support the motion as presented. I'm going to suggest an amendment of 30,250. That's what I'm saying.
I'll second that.
Okay. Go ahead.
That's, I can certainly withdraw it. I just want, how many people used last year here?
Total amount, the cost of municipality last year was 32,568.58. I don't,
160 people. Not big cost.
it's not,
But the big deal if you're just, you get to January 26th and you got 2 cents left in your wallet.
All right. Okay.
You could have been better.
Okay, so we'll make that the primary motion then. Okay, we'll withdraw. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
I'd just like to add that I support that motion because it's missing some of the seniors because the bracket that they're in is 27 and a bit. And every time they miss out because of that, and that's a large amount for them to come up with each year. And I support the motion for 30,000. And I'll second it as, I believe, Andy seconded as well.
Larry,
Yeah. Earlier, Councillor Turner, yeah. All right, any other questions or comments on the motion? So the motion is to raise it to 30,000 with a 250 exemption. So we're clear. All right, seeing no other final comments or questions, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Moving on to number 8, grant requests. So first, we have a recreation startup grant from Salem and Area Recreation Association. So this is startup grant that, is this the 750? 350, sorry, 350. And this is to, as we provide for other organizations in the past, to help with their startup costs and in the Salem area here for the Recreation Association. Okay, it's been moved by Warden Park. We have a seconder.
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Turner. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have a request for extension of time from the Salem Presbyterian Church. You have it there in your package. Okay, it's been moved by Warden Parker. Seconded by Councillor Dewar. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. And then last but not least is the C that we added tonight to the agenda is municipal service grant extension from Millbrook Area Community Association. They're requesting extension, the replacement battery for the AED that has been ordered since May is on back order. And they request an extension on the remaining funds. Okay, it's been moved by Deputy Warden Murray, seconded by Councillor Parker. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, moving on to number 9, we have the nomination appointment. This is, as many of you might have seen on Facebook this week, we have a new building official in our municipality. Cody Avery is working towards He's working now with us as building intern and working towards his courses. Any motion? Moved by Councillor Parker, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Parker.
Cody's understood me market. In fact, I thought both was best. I'm just wondering under the green.
Okay, seeing no other final comments or questions, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary nay. Motion carried. Next, we have emergency resolutions. Seeing none. All this meeting adjourned.
You have to say something. I just wanted to ask one question before you turn. How will the residents be notified that there's a change in the amount to qualify for a tax exemption? Because the cutoff is March, so how soon will it be?
It's advertised, so go.
So that will be pointed out to them.
Yes, it'll be advertised even through our social media and different places. Yeah.
Anybody that had an exemption last year will get a form in the mail.
Okay.
The form will have the income level and the exemption level on it. And anybody new or anybody that wants to will have you can call, get the form from us, and it will be advertised. We advertise in print media, online, social.
Okay. I call the Cross Neighborhoods meeting to order. First, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are on the Mi'kmaq, the ancestor and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. So I'll ask for approval of the agenda.
Seconded.
Councilor Ferdinand, seconded by Councilor Keel. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Count nay. Motion carried. Next, is there any errors or omissions or corrections to the minutes of December 19th, 2022? Any errors or omissions? Or any errors or omissions? Seeing none? Say those are approved. Next is the reports. First up is the building inspector's report. Councilor Hunter. Councilor One, second by Councilor Elliott. Any questions on it? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Count nay. Motion carried. Next is the bylaw dog control report.
So moved.
Councilor McKeon, second by Gordon Parker. Questions? None? I'll have one. I think Hogan also that's going to one at the 446 Thorpe Road, that comes to full council.
No, sorry. Thank you, Councillor. I've requested the second house to receive one for one half of the bill. Be required second half of the building. And we'll look to schedule a hearing thereafter in the county council. So it is possible to do.
So the building was on the 250.
The building is two separate. They're owned by
Same person.
same owner. By all accounts, it appears to be the same owners, but we need a second.
And the reason that if anybody have seen it, and a lot of calls, and I did 3 calls today.
Yeah.
People are concerned. Anybody seeing how the house is gone, just stand from the hurricane, so, and it's been on piece by piece, every little storm that we have, so, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we will as soon as it's received.
Every time I go look at this, so that there's been 2 in sale that I've asked for here several times. I noticed that one of them, 824 Salem Road, is now listed as new ownership. So what happens when basically the 30 days, like you guys, September 30th, 2022 was the date to comply. When the new ownership takes over and just says reviewing later on the status, does that require that new owner to be up as much as the old one was, or do you have to start all over there?
Thank you, Warden Barker. That pre-existing complaint is continuing, so we did not require a resubmission of that complaint. We have previously recommended that owners consider putting up a fence, which notified them that there have been complaints related to this property. Since that time, we have been reviewing it regularly. Our law enforcement officer is out, and I've seen some improvement in the area. For 824 Stanton Road in particular, that's much like some others that we've seen previously. It's business being run, which had a certain amount of debris out front. It's a forestry type business. So we're trying to give them time to clean it up. We understand it's property itself has limited visibility from the road, so we believe that if they either clean it up or we recommend build a fence, depending on the level of cleanup required, that it should satisfy the complainant's concerns. We've taken the approach that with these new owners, we've made them aware of the pre-existing complaint. And we've seen some improvement that we're hoping to see additional improvement before we direct it to start the fence.
Through you, Mr. Chair, when was the new ownership? When did that take place?
I don't have that date here.
I don't think that was on our last report.
No, it's possible. I would have to review when I'm reporting up and discovered that. But that was the report that I got for every month across the course of the month. And more frequently, obviously. With what my attention to this one, the change of ownership, so I think I'll become prepared with this change. And that's through discussions that our law enforcement officer had at the door of this property, maybe earlier than that.
It's still valid, that complaint is still valid, you know, certain persons, I mean, that's the key thing.
That's correct. They're tied to the properties themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just going to finish this, but move it back to the building inspections. One question I was supposed to ask.
One question, actually, we'll go back to Susan. Okay, any more questions on the bylaw, zone control officer's report? Seeing none, all those in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. That one made, motion carried. Okay, we'll go back to the motion that we already passed.
Sorry about that. Just a question on the demolition report. So the 2 towers and tower roads coming down. Is that what that means?
Their demolition permits.
So they did get a permit. That's all I need. Thank you.
Relate to the
One response to the original one.
original.
Yeah.
So it must be that one.
Well, I did have a report that people were working on, said it was sold and like, so,
Oh,
let's see, this is, somebody was wrong. Thank you.
okay. Next, on the reports is development officers report. With Councilor McKeel. Second by Councilor Watt. Questions? See none? Oh. The word.
Yeah, we call Mr. Chairman, one, can we get this report that maybe we can understand each year? That certainly doesn't have to be that long. For somebody to explain to us, maybe we need a report. Seems to be a lot of wasted things here.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Our development officer did notify me that he was going to include our report this time around at sort of a year end. But we can certainly notify. Remind him to keep it brief and simple. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That one made, motion carried. next is the cottage collection tonnage report. Using this is here, I'd say it's because we asked for it, yeah. But the garbage, November and December. Cottage.
Correct. You extended the.
We said,
You extended it, the additional 2 months, this year as a pilot, I guess, project. The report, if you compare to October of 2022, the numbers are really skewed, compared to last year. They're up significantly, and that's probably a result of the hurricane and the cleanup associated with that. But if you look at the numbers for November and December and compare them to 2021, they're fairly consistent. There's not a great drop off from October on. So your October, I think you could probably reasonably say your October tonnages are kind of year round. Residents are there. The only exception to that is the last run, the Tony River to the county line. There is a significant drop there. It's like a third of what your October tonnages are, which is ironic because I think that's the area that asked for it. It's the area that has the biggest decrease. So a little irony there, but anyways.
Councilor Deeper.
Yeah, a lot of these numbers here, I'm assuming this is, is there a run every week?
Yes, they do, garbage and organics 1 week and recycling the next. So the recycling are on.
Because the numbers seem quite low, we're not sending a full size truck.
No, it's a smaller truck.
So they get paid by tons or by, I'm not.
They are paid by, well, in this case, it was a fixed contract amount that they had, I think it was 35,000 works to do it for the additional 8 weeks. So.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Alley.
So my question is based on the tonnage that shows here. Will the seasonal and people who are relocating yearly get to keep the service? And I'm thinking that the reason that it's not a high amount is, one, the hurricane made them stay where they were. A lot of the residents were not out there because of what had happened. So will they get to keep that, or will it be terminated in the next contract? Or is it too soon to tell?
It's budget time. I think during our budget preparations, we'll look at it.
Yeah, it's really a council decision whether or not we extend it beyond the 1 year. I know some of the preliminary discussions around the next contract have been that a lot of areas in the province do this year. So there was some consideration that when the next contract is put out for tender, it would be included as a year-round service.
So when will the residents actually, when will council decide? So the residents will know, like, will that be like March, April? Like when is the time that it is due again? The decision was made.
Yeah, we did it in our budget time last year.
That's what I thought. So, yeah, okay, thanks.
So confident.
Personally, I think that I have problems with this program running this late because it's going to damage some of these cottage roads. A lot of the roads down by shore are sand base, is basically what it is. When you get a little bit of water in there, it just turns into like it's just like a soup. And if there's nobody down these roads, are they still going down after when the rainy season starts? Like right now, if you went down some of these roads, you might even get stuck. Like some of them aren't fit to be on. And, you know, it's private roads and it just going to create damage. Is that a concern that the operators have?
It was a concern that was expressed to Victor County Solid Waste. That was the one comment that did come back from manager, or CEO of Shared Service Authority. That was a concern, but they didn't have any reports of any damage to roads. But the program also ended before our monsoon season hit in the last couple of weeks.
Typically, you have a wet season earlier than this, right? But it's, I think that needs to be considered. Anyway, it's just all those things. No counties that we stay at, you take your garbage to the end of the lane. I found that to be a great burden. Saves our road from getting beat to snow. Thank you.
Councilor McKeel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I have, I guess, my question is that 35,000 that we paid this year, is that a good deal for the amount of time that was taken, or is that kind of where we're going to be looking at for future budgetary lines, or did we kind of overpay, or was that, or did we get a good deal?
I think if you compare it to the summer months, you didn't get a good deal, because that's pretty certainly higher on a tonnage basis.
So, yeah, so I guess at budget delivery or budget time, we'll have more of a, I guess, we won't have more definite numbers because we'll build the tonnage. Yeah, no, I think that with, I mean, it's January and it was, 10 degrees here last week. If this is the trend that's going to continue, people are able to get into their cottages more. The lanes aren't plugged up with snow, and I think if this trend continues, we might be continuing to have to service our residents more because these cottages are going to be used more. So it's something we definitely have to consider budget time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to address the issue about the trucks and the damage they can do to the roads and stuff. That was certainly one of the concerns that Earl had at the landfill site. Discussed it with the trucking company, but he said they won't go on roads if they're getting too bad. It's their call whether they're going to go down that laneway or that roadway. It's the same as in the wintertime. They said people not go on some roads because it's too icy. So they make the call. If it's getting too gooey, like it would be right now for sure, they simply wouldn't go on those roads. They're not going to risk, having to get towed out and everything either. So they're not going to go down those roads. And if Dicker Road, only had a few residents on, they said they didn't want to come down there. I'm sure they would go down. They said, no, we'd rather not come down our road. I think they can request that. But more to what Councilor McKeel was saying, that part of the reason the tonnages are low, people couldn't get anywhere near the properties when all the streets came down all over the road. So, they more or less gave up for the year once that happened. So I think until we get another year under our belt, if we decide to go that way, you get a better comparison, I think, on the tonnages. But what I heard from some people was that, there's a lot of permanent homes now. They're being turned into permanent homes, a lot of cottages and $1 million homes, some of them. Their argument is that, I pay a lot of taxes to the county, why shouldn't I get service? But I wouldn't be in a hurry right now to, as the CEO said, that some areas perhaps are going year round, to get into the next 3 months. I think what we're doing now is, fair enough for now. And if that doesn't work out, then we can back off it. But I don't think we can go by just the 1 year's numbers we had, in the middle of it. Thank you.
Councilor Dave Carter.
I'd rather pretty much say what I was going to say. The shore of the cottages are growth very significant. We need to tailor our services to those people who are paying the taxes. Period.
Okay, I think if everybody agrees, so this is something that we'll look at. That's doing our budget. So, fiscal year. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, moving on. Correspondence, Central and East Pittsburgh Community Health Board. Regarding the sidewalks in Blue Acres. We got that in their package. Comments? Councilor Thompson.
Mr. Chair, I asked, requested this on our agenda. Yes. This letter basically outlines a lot of concerns that I've raised over the last 12 years. But what I want to do is I want to make a motion to send an official request to the town of Stellarton and the town of Glasgow to request that they help a partner in funding the sidewalks through Blue Acres, and ask them for their response and their reasons for their response. If that could be something that staff could do. So I'd make that a motion for a second.
I'll second that motion. Moving second. Questions on that motion? What?
I'll be supporting this motion because I think we have to get the answer finalized as to getting the other municipalities involved in paying for our sidewalks. So I appreciate feedback from both towns.
Councilor Keel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also support this motion. I think this has been a long time coming. I think we've debated around this council many times that we didn't want to involve the other towns with this. So, it was quite a point of contention and a point of discussion and debate many nights. So I'm very happy to see this coming forward. I think that it benefits all of us, and I will support this motion.
Wasn't sure if you had your hand up or that is.
I was waiting for Darrell to almost everything in this letter I agree with. It is no doubt, and we've done this since first time it brought forward, but it's a safety issue. Okay. There is real, even if we build a sidewalk there, as I already pointed out in our response to this lady, even if we build it, there's still going to be significant risks there, definite safety risks. It's just too congested area, deliberately designed for traffic, make it easy for the pedestrian way. So there's always going to be risks that we can't overcome all of them, and I'm afraid that it would be quite expensive to overcome. But there is a statement in there which we have no evidence. It has come to our attention. There are quite a number of people, Glasgow and Stellarton, surrounding areas passed through Blue Acres. A year ago, we passed the motion of this council to ask to have a survey done on Westport and the Blue Acres. Has that survey been done? Right.
No, we did not complete the survey. I believe that the request for the survey for the Acres portion said it was sending it over. Numbers for it. I believe it was not required at the subsequent meeting. We had proposed it to the consultant team that's been hired to work on this project with us when we were putting out the pricing for the project. We have engaged and started the high-level design work with the Provincial Department of Public Works as well. But we've done so without having completed the pedestrian traffic survey that.
I have seen some information that was collected And it doesn't give hard numbers, but the Westfield Road is about 4 times as busy. It's not a professional design survey. I think you drive through those areas a lot. I do. You would observe that just as anecdotal. That's not my point. I really believe, that's probably why I got it forward last year, that in order to move this project along, we have to have some numbers to go through other levels of government. That's Glasgow, that's province it fits. Now, the province, I believe, my opinion, is done their share by saying that they're not going to force us to put another bridge across the Plymouth Road at $500,000-$700,000, pretty close. My concern is that the walkway that is currently on the bridge across the Plymouth Road is, I don't know, 2 or 4 inches narrower of accessibility standards. My fear is that from 2030, all up to code, somebody's going to say that's 3 inches too narrow. They'll be back in another pickle. What I'm suggesting is I am supporting the motion. It's that we asked Public Works, actual letter, says that they are waiving the need to widen that bridge. And if in the future they'll replace the bridge, obviously that would be brought up to code. But not at expense of the county. That could be, that was by far the biggest part of the cost. That was 2/3 of the cost. Let's put a bridge, a Pentway Bridge in there. So to me, but I am still very concerned. I look at it, there's 10 intersections. There's 11 businesses, most of whom depend upon vehicular traffic. There's 3 left turning lanes and there's 2 sets of lights. We're asking for a problem here. But by encouraging pedestrians to go through there, we're asking for problems. And it will have an impact on the flow of traffic to it too. You have to start putting in lights and just yielding to pedestrians, and I hope to God they yield as they're turning. So slow down traffic flow. That, I believe, is the busiest road in the county, plus the roads both second. It also has a lot of traffic on it and a fair number of pedestrians. And I've said all along, I would like to see the 2 tied together. In negotiating with the province, let's set them both problems. They're both a problem. They're both created by the province in 1972 or whenever they shoved that road through there the first time. And let's work together. That's why I'm so much in favor of this motion. Let's work together. Let's show that working together with the town of Glasgow, town of development, that we can cooperate and improve our community. Not just, no, that's yours, we're not touching it. That's not cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will vote for the motion because that's what I've been asking for quite a while. This is a bigger project than just one municipality. Yes, it's our property. If you want to just get right down to it, it's on your property, you have to do it. But it's made quite clear in that letter from Glenn Blanchard that this serves not just the county, but it probably serves the majority residents of the towns of New Glasgow and Skelton. So unless they're willing to put some money into it, I hope this motion isn't just to say, well, okay, we got it back, they said they weren't interested, so we'll have to pay for it all on our own. My point of view is that similar to what my brother said, safety is ultimately important here. Just to lay down concrete and say, there's your sidewalk, is simply asking for somebody to get killed. But we need to work together on this. We have a lot of other projects, too, a lot of, and I made that clear in my letter to Ms. Lanshaw. There's a lot of projects that are going to require money from this council when it comes to budget time, and it gets a bit hard to say to all of our county residents, whether it's trails or whatever other projects require help, that no, we're putting the money here, even though it's going to serve mostly residents of other municipalities. We have a role to play for sure, but that role has to be shared by the municipalities, all 3 municipalities that it's serving, and it has to be shared, in my opinion, by the provincial and federal government. We can come up with a solution. But if all we're asking for is a letter to say, no, sorry, we're not interested, which is easy to say, because not in our area. I don't think that moves us, any closer to getting this project done. We need to have cooperation from the neighbors and from the other levels of government to get it done. But I will vote for the motion because you have to ask first and get a no, and that only makes it that much harder to do it. Thank you.
Sir Thompson.
Thank you. I just want to clarify one thing. My motion doesn't, don't read that as that I agree that the town of Stoughton and the town of Glasgow should pay for our infrastructure. Because it is our infrastructure. And we need to get this off the table. Because it's been brought up at around council tables and around sidebar discussions at different meetings around the county that we need your guys' help. So I want this to be officially on paper, what the response is and the reasons for the response. That's what I want. And the notion that you're gonna put our sidewalk project in under consideration, the same pot of money as the Hector or Trail in West Pictou is a foolhardy thing to do because we have gas tax money that we get every year from the federal government for exactly these types of projects. They have a design that's designed by engineers that will take every safety precaution in place to make it safe. What's there now is not safe. People are walking on it. And right now, I feel bad for anybody that doesn't have a car. It needs to walk through the waivers. It's, go down there tomorrow. I'll go for a walk with you. Look, put your rubber boots on though. Because right now, it's just a big pile of mud. So I'm not suggesting that Stoughton and Glasgow should be looking to fund this because they never asked us when they built the sidewalks to their boundary. We've got a provincial government that spent about $500,000 to put a bridge over the East River by the Esso station. And they've done their part. They've done the part on the other side, allowing us to do the design work and put the sidewalk in, and they'll replace the bridge at a later date. All those what if areas that we've been talking about. Yeah, but like this is the decision-making process that we continually find ourselves in. Yeah, but we can't do that. Don't lump it in with Westmore Road. It's a whole different set of circumstances. Let's get the answer from Stoughton and Glasgow. And we've got to have the political will to fix this problem. It's not going away. And our residents in Plymouth, which is where this is located, it's not located in Stoughton. It's not located in Glasgow. It's located in Plymouth. Our residents cannot walk that road. They're stuck. But if it was somewhere else, you would get a sidewalk in. So why we have to jump through different hoops in Plymouth when we can get a sidewalk in Riverton, a sidewalk by the Wellness Center, a sidewalk in River John, a sidewalk in Elma, and we fund them totally, but everybody uses them. Stoughton residents use them, Westville residents use them in Elma. We didn't ask them to co-pay this. So let's get that answer out of the way because our residents are asking for this. And the fact that we're going to just, what if this to death is unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Caroline, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next is roadside debris, Hurricane Fiona. Councilor Boyd. This.
Yes, I'm sorry that, and they were sending, Leo, what, they would like to talk about. I hope you can follow me, what the problem is without too much difficulty. On the cleanup there, I guess, have a different thing now, but, Department of Transportation, which is a Nova Scotia government agency, is cleaning up the sides of the roads there with some kind of I would say with a mulcher, I would say with some kind of a device to just shoot up the trees. Anyway, I got a few calls, and one person in particular lives on the corner of the Greens Point Road and the Petrol Landing Road. When they went down to mulch these trees or whatever, all the pieces went flying into his house, into his car, spread all over his lawn and everything. So all he asked for was for me to come clean it up. It was not for any restitution, anything, just come clean the stuff up that they did. I mean, these are big pieces, these are the size of this thing here. And yet, yeah, we're gonna send somebody, well, no, it's being said. These people are paying taxes to this municipality. And I think that they should be looked after. I mean, we can't go down and like I couldn't go down to your case houses and throw stuff in your yard and get away with it. It just wouldn't be accepted. Why is it being accepted for the, the Department of Transportation to turn around and hire these people and let them do this and you're talking in some cases where they're seniors or people with disabilities that can't clean it up. So what are they gonna do? Pay it out of their own pocket? This is ludicrous. Stuff like this should be dealt with right away, especially now, police, now they can go in, they can clean that up with a few people in a half a day. There's no snow, nothing there to stop them. But no, they're gonna wait till it snows and everything, and then they can't get at it. They'll have to wait till sometime in the summer if they get around to it. They're lying to them, they're telling them that they're gonna come and they're not coming. They're not getting back to them, they're not giving them an answer. So I'm asking that if this council would send a letter to I think our MLA in Houston and the Department of Transportation and the minister, and ask them why this is happening, why this is being allowed, why these people are not being looked after, and why is this agency, it's a government agency, that they don't get back to people and tell people what the problem is and when they can do it and when they can help them. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. We can't help these people in this council, and I don't know why we've got a council, but anyway, I'm asking that make a motion that we send a letter again to the minister and the premier, well, the MLA, I guess, which is the same person, and to the Department of Transportation, whatever they're called now, in Holmes Brook, and ask them why this is not being done. So I'm looking for a seconder. Thank you.
That's that.
Move to second. Councilor Dave Craddock.
I had a similar circumstance in my district. It occurred around the 15th of October. A mulcher wasn't hurricane debris. They decided to there was too much shade on that section of road. So without talking to the landowner, farmer, his hay fields, which he hates every year, they mulch the entire hedgerow of spruce trees that contained among other things a barbed wire fence. If you put there, they don't put, it was cattle in. They mulched it all. Now the tree, the barbed wire fence had grown into the trees 10, 15 years ago. But they told him that, oh no, we removed the fence before we mulched it. And he looked at them and goes, well, he knew that they were liars. Anyway, the 22nd of October, we had our MLA out to an event there about 100 yards from this incident. And it's really, as you said, chunks of wood, twice and 3 times the size of that, and threw them 150 feet out into this field for 300 or 400 yards. And the best I know is the MLA did go look at it, but there's been no cleanup done. Now, you can't clean that up manually. There's a great deal of effort, all hand picking. And once the grass starts up through the spring, you're done. But he's going to lose a significant section. His hayfield. He can't make hay on it for fear of breaking his machine. 40 signed, 4 planned. The hedgerow that grew up over the years is literally right on the line between what the province owns as a roadway up the farm road. So I got left there. With the fence lines. Always pasture that after grass for 6 or 7 weeks in the fall. After we made hay on it in the summer. But there's other instances. They don't, these are big powerful machines, and I appreciate that they need those to do their work. Need to put a guard or something on them so you don't just blow this debris way out into a man's hayfield. One thing was to live on, but it's a hayfield or a lawn property that's being maintained by the landowner. You shouldn't be allowed just to blow that material out of the field. Now, I did speak with Mr. Chisholm on this matter. He agreed with that between that. This is towards the end of October, and so we'll have to wait till the ground gets more firm. No, that's not going to happen this fall, and it's still there, and go there at night. You better have more than rubber boots. But it's just pretty impossible to clean up. The only thing I think would do it if the ground is frozen, might be able to use a powerful sweeper. But they made a lot of problems by not thinking ahead. So I'm pleased to second the motion.
Yeah. More questions? Sir Wolf.
It's thank you, Councilor Burke, but on this one here, when I'm down to see it, the ground salt, I mean, it was, they could have been in there, they could have cleaned this up and as I say, half a day, they could have had it all cleaned up, this particular one, and been out of there. But instead, they just give them the runaround, oh, yeah, they're coming, yeah, they're coming, they never come. And I wish we could get our MLA there. I wish he was, he knew what Picture County was sometimes. You know, come and have a look at some of this stuff. Thank you.
Okay. To what?
It's not with the highway seven, the problem down on Nova Scotia Valley. They've left an awful mess in some of the properties. And a lot of it's just senior citizens who just don't have the equipment themselves to try and get all the trees done. So it's an area, cleared off the property. So I was asked a question about that concerning Nova Scotia, if there's any avenue we have for contacting them as to why they can't give us help in cleaning up this debris that they made in the corner of the power lines.
I'll make a motion afterwards or what?
Yeah, it's just a double problem. It's not just the highways, issue.
Yeah. So these trees are private property owners.
They were trees going up to the lines that were right at the edge of the power lines.
So are they on the,
They're on the owner's property.
owner's property?
Yeah, they took them down and just, but they left a pile of trees and branches, whatever. And it is a mess.
Okay, we'll deal with Councilor Wall's motion first. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Count by nay. Motion carried. Councilor Wyatt, do you want to speak? We'll send a letter or those look up.
We have to send a letter to them to speak.
Again, as a council, that's all we can do. Councilor Wall says, you know, there's something this council can do, but there's nothing we can do, but that's like, because it's provincial issue with it, so.
And I think the residents understand that, but they're just frustrated because they aren't allocated. Not that relevant, because I was switching my along the same lines, what she's done.
I'll second that.
Okay, second. Wooden Park.
Just wanted to mention that we, and the blanks here is on terms of the, set that meeting up. We're in the process of setting a meeting up with the representatives of Nova Scotia Power, and I think that might be something we could bring up then, but I'm not sure, Brian, if that was, if we were inviting them to come here to a COW meeting, or this was a separate meeting we were gonna have, but I know there was a number of issues that we had to talk to them about, and they're more than willing to meet with us, they, you know, like some of the things that I said before, so we're trying to address, you know, what they're gonna do to, get where they use now or something to do with, making the lines stronger and whatnot. Do you remember, Brian, what we're gonna do, what meeting with them, or are you gonna request meeting with them?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was at a separate meeting with them because there were some myriad issues.
A number of issues, but that was a smaller meeting, similar to what we had before. I was just thinking that might be the best way to address this. Doesn't hurt to send a letter, but I mean, sometimes I'm trying to file, you know, we could bring it up there for sure as an add-on to the other issues.
And we're second reading with that. Okay. Probably look after that. Okay. Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, it's just, it's sure, it is part of the Nova Scotia Power vision. Because I know they done the landing road for me right down, Chance Harbor Road right down this year. And then they got some drop, they took that thing down to nothing, and if you go down, look and see it, and they took her way back. And they tell me that they don't, or they're allowed to go back 40 feet. That's because of the whatever that they have, the government, whatever, but they go back 40 feet. And as I say, I wouldn't step up for Nova Scotia Power, but I have to say they did a good job in Tulsa, thank you.
My understanding is that this Nova Scotia Power will deal.
Councillor McKeel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I've seen driving the roads after these gone through trimming trees. The roads have been full of pieces of wood, and residents are going and cleaning off the roads in front of their houses because of the mess that's being done. And I would agree that sometimes it's an immaculate job and they do an awesome job. And then there's other times where it's a mess. So there doesn't really seem to be some consistency. And I've noticed that in my area as well, that sometimes it's great and other times not so great. So I think that's, you know, obviously an issue of consistent work and for them to look at, but it's, I've seen both sides of it in my area.
Councillor Descartes.
Thank you. The term I think you were looking for is they're gonna harden their grid. And I sent an email to them some time ago, but I didn't get a response. I want to know what that meant. Because I am of the opinion that as long as you leave trees growing near power lines, they only have, the only right of way that Nova Scotia Power has is the right of way for the highway. They're up near the edge of that. So that technically they've only got 3 or 6 feet on the other side. In an area in my, along with some of my land, 3-4 years ago. And they did come see me and they did ask permission to do another 10 feet or so. But even that, we're there now. It's time as a society we had a discussion on how wide our right of ways are for power lines. Can't afford to bury them. Nice, we can't afford it. But we can widen that right of way up to, I said 50 feet, someone said it's gotta be away at 40. On both sides of the line. The lines along one side of the road, the 40 feet is the other ditch close to it. It's into the woods, and that's private land. You can't just, obviously, could just appropriate it, but it would be very private. And that would also mean that people that plant those nice trees that we gave away, or planted them in 1962, and and now nice big tall trees, they'd have to go too. Well, that's not gonna be popular. Do recall in front of the school, let's pick one of years ago, lots of trees that were planted in 1967 for a centennial project. It's sort of right under the roads. Okay, but we do have, as a society, you have to be prepared for more long periods of outages in rural areas in particular, or we have to modify the rights of way, what we do to them. Because just clearing under the line doesn't get it done, because there's a great big tree here and overcomes. But it will happen next time, the wind get on the south and push the trees the other way. It will happen, so. Nova Scotia Power can do a real good job, and they can do a damn mess too.
Just for information purposes, just because I had a call, I think it's from somebody in Devon's area this week, a lady needs some assistance. And was wondering, DNR was doing it for a bit, of the cleanup. When they go to your property, and says she help you, but I checked with John leads some agreement on that, and that is finished. So, but I do know that Hurricane Field and relief funding is still available, I think, to the end of March. It's $250. They'll compensate you and get something back to you.
So it's not half of one tree. Okay. Next on the agenda is community announcements. Today's community announcements. Mr. Dover.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, this is, it's a community announcement, but it's really a thank you for last Monday, a week ago today. We had the premier, we had the warden, we had the Dolores brothers. We're lucky enough that Councillor Andy Thompson, Councillor Peter Boyles, and we had Logan, Val and Evan, Suzanne, and they were all out to Eureka to see the bridge get opened, and it, like, I know we're running things down and there's this and that, but every once in a while there's a good story to come out of it. And it was a good story the other day because the river was wide open, there was no ice, and it was bearable outside, and people turned out. And I just want to thank everybody from the municipality that made the effort to be there. That I know everybody's got other things to do, but it was nice to see the people that were there. And just to look at the $3.5 million bridge. It's nice, and you'd be surprised that people that didn't even know the bridge was getting fixed in town. They were out for a ride and one little bridge went in. I said, oh, it's been there since a while. I never been on the thing about it. It's been there since a while. But anyway, I just want to thank our staff and fellow councilors, the ward, and the premier for being here. Thank you.
Councillor Boyles.
Yeah, I just wanted to announce that we get approved for a generator to Hillside Hall and supposed to put it in this week for us. So yeah, one went done, and I guess everybody has been put in for it, has been approved.
Good. Councillor Dave Parker.
Yeah, well, you just said that maybe how, I understand we're waiting for the fire commission to come out and do a scope of work for install hours. But that was not my announcement. Tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, Town of Bush Fire Hall. I realize that's at Victor County. And I will be there. There's going to be a meeting of woodland owners and contractors to discuss and try to coordinate some of the recovery efforts. You know, tremendous loss, tremendous damage. I can't say what they're going to discuss. I'm not sure what they're going to discuss, but would be of interest to anybody that has woodland in Western Victor County or come from Lismore. Feels so inclined, just it's a long ways. That's more way to 7 o'clock, Town of Bush Fire Hall.
Okay, you. Councillor Donald.
It's just an announcement, but it's a question. Do we have a planning meeting this Saturday? Yes, Steve Daniel will come up tomorrow. And location.
Okay, Councillor Elliott.
I don't have all the details, but it's this weekend that the Tony River Community Hall will have its annual Speak with Chatter again. starts at 4 and it usually spells out about 4:17. But I'll forward all the rest of the information to Sue Ann so that she can put that for everybody.
Good. Okay. Now, is there any emergency resolutions? But if there's any, meeting adjourned. Bye.
There you go.